Hey, this is John with the Autistic Pro. On this channel, I share stories from my own life to help spread awareness of autism, especially in the workplace. And so if you're new to the channel, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and sign up for notifications. And most importantly, share with a friend, whether they're autistic or neurotypical. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We need to get the word out about autism and how it affects different people. And so today, I'm feeling very reflective. And the thing I really want to talk about is how it is that I could go so long escaping diagnosis. So let me tell you a little bit more about where I come from in regards to autism. So about the time I was 10 years old, my youngest brother, EJ, he was diagnosed with autism. So he was about 3 at the time. It would have been right around 1995, 96. And so it had a huge effect on my family. They told us at the time that my youngest brother would be nonverbal for life, that he wouldn't contribute to society, that he would be better off being institutionalized. And so, um, that put a big chip on my parents' shoulders because they just weren't willing to accept that. They expected more from my brother and, knew he was capable of being a valuable part of society. And they were right. He's able to give something great to society. And today, he holds down a nearly full-time job. He's able to care for himself for the most part. He's got his own sense of humor, his own personality, and all of these things that are great and unique about him. Partly because of his autism, and not just in spite of it. That said, he did have some extra challenges growing up, and so in some regards, that may have contributed to me kind of being overlooked because my brother, he was a handful. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. There were times when he would have meltdowns. He would scream. He would bite. He would hit, scratch, and was just so frustrated a lot of the times. With not being able to communicate with people the way that he wanted to, and that's understandable. My parents kept after it, and were just really great in working with him to get him to where he is today. And they always say it was a family effort, and that's true to some extent as well, because I grew up in a family with 4 brothers, and so we all you know, pitched in and helped to socialize him. And I benefited from that as well, having all of these people to teach me about how to relate with other people. And so that probably also was a contributing factor to me being able to be overlooked because from an early age, I've got all of these models kind of teaching me what it is to be normal and to be neurotypical. And over the years, I've only gotten better and better and better at masking. So some of the social cues that are really difficult for me to catch on to, I've just simply worked at. Before I was diagnosed, even I was, going on YouTube trying to learn how to read people's body language, how to understand, kind of the subtext of what people mean when they say certain things, and how to try to read people better, and how to relate with people better. So, you know, I, I was a super masker, I guess you would say. And, as a result, that makes it really difficult to identify that, um, to identify the autistic traits when you're so good at hiding them all these years. Another factor that probably went into this also is just the timing aspect. So around the time I was growing up, autism awareness was next to nothing. People didn't know what it was at all, um, even the diagnostic criteria were probably different, and because they didn't have the awareness of the different ways that autism manifests itself, and the different um, ways that it looked. And even in myself, I had a very clear picture in my mind that autism was, kind of the picture of my brother, of his classmates, and even the students that I had as a teacher in school. I had a very specific vision in my mind of what autism looked like, and I wasn't it. Going along with that, because I knew so much about autism from being a teacher, from growing up with it, I could go down a test and tell all of the diagnostic criteria, and so it was really easy. You know, when I started becoming aware that I was having some mental health issues, and you usually have some sort of screening tests that you go through to try to pin down what that is. And for me, I could look at these questions and I could see, oh well, this has to do with OCD, this has to do with attention deficit disorder, this has to do with autism, and what so have you, and go down through the list. And because I had it in my mind that I was not autistic, I would come to a question like that and really second guess everything about it, and always err towards the side of not being honest about it, not being totally forthright about my own traits and my own tendencies. For years, I was kind of flying under the radar and having a lot of difficulties when I was about to turn 22. That's when I moved to Florida, and being on my own, I was in total isolation for the first couple of years. Really just didn't leave my apartment except to go to work. And so obviously, when you're not interacting with people, there's not going to be anybody there to tell you, hey, this doesn't seem right. You ought to check it out. I had that whole thing missing, and I was miserable, to be honest with you. And I know there's a lot of other people out there on the spectrum experiencing that same despair, that same even self-hatred at times, and not, especially those who haven't been identified, of just not understanding why you're so different, and not understanding what's going on, and just having no hope that things are going to get better. And I was in a really, really dark place there for a long time, and it eventually, led to some serious depression, which, has been at various states of control over the years. But when it was finally getting clear that it was not well controlled and the medicines really weren't working, that's when I saw the psychiatrist to have my medicines adjusted pretty much, because my doctor had just kind of given up on it, to be honest. And that's when it came out that, yeah, you're probably autistic. And looking back, it makes so much sense, thinking about those years when I first started coming out of my shell in this new city. I had made a conscious decision to not just stay in my apartment and to try to get out and experience more of life. And so I was doing mostly outdoor things, which were still solitary, but at least I wasn't inside by myself. I could be outside moving by myself. I also decided to try to make an effort to try to join some church, and so that's actually where I ended up meeting my wife and setting up, a lot of the connections that I've made now. She literally fell at my feet one day in church. She was running late to church. I was sitting there in one of the pews towards the back. She tripped. She literally fell right at my feet, and being autistic and not reading people very well and understanding normal social cues very well. I tried smiling at her very awkwardly to make her feel better, and instead of making her feel better, she thought I was laughing at her, and so that was the auspicious beginnings of my relationship with my wife. And luckily, there was a mutual attraction, and she kind of pursued it and helped make it happen. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't be together, and my life would be very different right now hadn't it been for her taking that initiative. But anyhow, you know, I say all that just to make the point that it's really, really easy to talk yourself out of things, and it's really, really easy to lie to yourself, to be in denial, and to sometimes even just be too close to a situation to where you can't see things for what they really are. And so that's why it really helps to get that outside opinion. So if you're one of those people who is, just kind of stewing on it on your own, maybe you're at the point I was at a certain time of your life where you're just really down looking for answers, you know, try to get an outside opinion and try to get some of those people in your life to give that feedback, and seek the the advice of professionals. I mean, a lot of people who at work, they have access to things like employee assistance programs, or you can have counseling, or if you're fortunate enough to have health insurance or whatever. I really encourage you to get out there and try to get with someone who you feel comfortable talking to. Not every therapist is going to be, a perfect fit, or a lot of them even today still miss, autism. But it's important just to get these outside perspectives, so that you can get a true accounting of things. And so I'm going to leave it there for today, but I go a little more into the masking aspects in another video, so I'd really encourage you to check that out, and to check out some of the other videos on the channel to see these different things that have been manifested in me, and maybe you can relate. And don't forget also to share and to like the post so that we can get the stuff out there and help people who need help. And that's really what it's all about. So until next time, thanks for stopping by.